Welcome to the Weekly Podcast. I'm your host, Owen, and I just got back from trying to record an episode of the podcast with Kyle and Brody, and it was for lack of a better term, shitstorm. We were all just kind of not into it, and Brody was tired off his ass and on his fourth coffee in about 2 hours, so I'm just going to record my 2-round what I would do mock draft and count this as the episode of the podcast for this week. This will be the last what I would do mock draft. I'm going to post to the channel /podcast before the draft, which is in 7 days. I'm hoping to get, the plan is to get a predictive mock draft up on the day of the draft itself. So look out for that. But let's just dive right into it because we're going to try to breeze through some of these easier picks. First up, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback Clemson, my best quarterback on my board. You know, easy pick. They have already donated to each other's charities. It's going to happen even though sounds like a predictive thing, this is what I want to happen. Another thing, it sounds predictive, but I think it's going to happen, or I would do anyway, is Zach Wilson to the Jets at 2, my second best quarterback on my board. The gap between him and Fields isn't as big as some other people would think. Some other people think Fields is better. It's just preference, really. The off-the-platform throws versus mechanics and athletic promise and things like that. It's just whatever you balance a way out more, and just what I saw on the tape. Third, San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, this was the Miami Dolphins pick, which they got from Houston, so technically Houston's pick. And they take Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State. Now, I'm making this pick because I think if Nick Mullins can come in and have in his first, I think it was first however many starts, he's the second all-time in passing yards. If Nick Mullins can do that, I'm curious to see what Justin Fields could do, because he's a lot better thrower of the football, and he's a lot better athletically. And I think that Kyle Shanahan saw what Josh Allen did to them last year in that game and saw what an athletic quarterback can do for you. And even though people are like, oh, well, Mac Jones fits their system, maybe they want to try something new in their system to make it seem, or try out different things, which is what Justin Fields will do for you, because he brings that athleticism along with some high-end ball skills. And number 4 is one of my first manufactured trades of the whole thing. Washington football team moving up to number 4 with Atlanta. Atlanta receives the 19th overall, 2022 first, 2023 first, and a 2022 third. Washington receives the 4th overall pick and a 2022 sixth. They move up to select Trey Lance, quarterback out of NDSU. Riverboat Ron has his Cam Newton replacement. Probably going to be a little better than Cam, to be honest with you. Not a lot of wear and tear on him. He's literally, I really compare him to Josh Allen coming out of college. Maybe not as much of a cannon arm and less games played, but if Carson Wentz and Josh Allen had a baby, I think it'd be Trey Lance. He's just phenomenal, probably faster than both those guys, better with the ball in his hands. And I think with the position you are in, with Fitz being there, he can come in, doesn't have to start right away. And you don't really have a need here if you're Washington to make a pick. Even at 19, whoever you bring in at 19 isn't going to make your team. Isn't going to take them above and beyond to the next level to win a Super Bowl. A quarterback will. So getting a quarterback to sit for a year, win some fans back by make it to the playoffs again with the roster you have with Fitz, and then move on to Lance next year. And then getting Lance after you're sitting is going to do more for your football team than getting whoever you're going to get at 19 here. And if you're Atlanta in this trade, you just want to get this king's ransom, because even if you draft a quarterback, if you drafted Trey Lance, you can't move on from Matt Ryan. You can't even move on from next season because you're going to have $40 million in dead cap. So you'd have to wait 2 seasons down the road, and at that point, why not just wait to take the quarterback either next season and have him sit 1 season, or 2 seasons from now take your quarterback? Because if you're going to be bad enough to get a quarterback this season, you probably are going to be bad enough to get it this season. Also, you're going to have 2 first-round picks, so even if you're not bad enough, you can use that as ammo to move up. Now, Cincinnati at 5 takes Penei Sewell. I personally think they should do this. Protecting Joe Burrow should be priority number 1, even though he wants his LSU buddy in Jamar Chase. I think protecting him and he already has weapons with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. Yeah, he could use another one, but you're not going to use a top 5 pick on that luxury. You want to protect him with his left tackle, and Riley Reef can be your swing tackle or your right tackle or whatever. You just need to improve that offensive line so he doesn't get crushed. Before he even got hurt, he was getting crushed, so you need to fix that up. Sewell is my top of line. I don't understand what this Rashawn Slater talk is. He's good technically and he's good movement and stuff, but Sewell is above him. I think there's a big tier jump between Slater and Darisaw and then Sewell. 6 is Miami. They take Jamar Chase. This was originally the Eagles pick. Now Miami's after moving back up. They don't take Pitts here because they already have Gesicki and they fill the same kind of role. And they're both the kind of not totally your typical tight end kind of guy, run out of the slot more often than not. So you'd really be doubling up, even though he's the best player on my board overall. He's my number one player this draft. But even with that, I don't think that he should go to a team that's going to already have someone who's filling that role. Like, yeah, he's going to be better than Gesicki in that role, but it's just going to be very redundant, and it's going to be very hard to balance both those guys when you can get someone who's more of that over-the-middle route runner kind of guy in Jamar Chase, who also has some speed of burn, combine it with the deep threat in Will Fuller and your physical, down or up the sideline. You get Devontae Parker on one sideline. He's your more physical wide receiver. Chase is your more route runny gimmick number one receiver, and then Will Fuller is your deep threat. Arizona here, I have trading up to 7 with Detroit. Detroit receives the 16th overall pick and the 49th overall pick, so the second round pick of the Arizona Cardinals. And Arizona receives the 7th, and they move up to get Kyle Pitts. So, Arizona has DeAndre Hopkins. They have Christian Kirk. They have Andy Isabella. And they have Kyler Murray, James Conner. This offense is already dangerous. But there are rumors saying that they want to go up to get a wide receiver. And I did this before these rumors even came out. I had this idea. I think I wrote this mock draft out 2 or 3 days ago. If Arizona got Kyle Pitts with DeAndre Hopkins, it's insanity to think about. Like, they're starting to know who? Like, Dan Arnold? Let me. I'll double check real quick. Like, if they had, I can't even imagine. Like, imagine Kyle Pitts. Imagine you're lining up inside the red zone. DeAndre Hopkins on the outside, Kyle Pitts on the outside, and then Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella in the slots, and Larry Fitz if they bring him back. Let's see. Oh, and they have AJ Green. They brought in AJ Green too. That would be insane. Imagine Kyle Pitts in the slot, AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins as your outside receivers. That is insanity. Their starting time right now is Max Williams. They have Darrell Daniels and they brought in Ian Bunting. So it fits a need as well. I just think it'd be insane if you got these guys. And Detroit moves back, picks up another pick. And I think it just works out for both teams. Arizona would be crazy. I love this pick. I forgot I even made this pick. I'm looking at this again for the first time since I wrote it. Number 8. This is going to come to a shock. This is going to be a little shock for some people. Because he's not my next best offensive lineman on my board. Or even not even the top 2. Christian Darrisaw to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers haven't had a steady, reliable left tackle since 2013. They haven't had the same left tackle 2 seasons in a row since 2013. They need to get a left tackle. Rashawn Slater and Elijah Vera Tucker are above him on my board right now, but they're not pure left tackles. Slater's probably going to be more of an inside guy because of his length, and Tucker is just overall just amazing at guard. So why would you ever play him at tackle in the NFL unless you absolutely need to? So I think that making this move provides them with that stability at left tackle that they're really going to look for since they haven't had one in a while. And I think it's just their biggest need at this point into the draft process. Protect Sam Darnold. He didn't have no protection on the Jets. So protect him. You already have weapons, and it's a deep wide receiver class. Target those later in the draft. You already have some pretty good pieces around Sam Darnold. Also, it's going to help out Christian McCaffrey because Darrisaw's not the bet. He's a pretty good run blocker over on the outside. Has room to grow there, so McCaffrey will definitely benefit as well. This one is going to be weird, and I just want to say that this is my opinion, right? This is my mock draft, and this would be Caleb Farley if he wasn't hurt, because I think they need an instant starter. They can't worry about him being out too much. I went with J.C. Horn. Physical freak. Jerry loves those. I'm not trying to predict what Jerry's going to do, but I also have J.C. Horn rated higher than Patrick Surtain. Like, he's a technician, and his combine workout showed he's pretty physically adept as an athlete, but I think J.C. Horn's just a better athlete overall. I just saw film where Patrick Surtain lost some reps, especially against Seth Williams, where J.C. Horn, I didn't really see that many as many, and he even shut down Kyle Pitts a little bit in their game against Florida. So I was just more impressed with Horn's film overall. Surtain's going to be a good player, don't get me wrong, but I just have Horn rated a little better. So I think I put him with another athletic, with a high ceiling player, Trevon Diggs, in Dallas. And then I have the Giants not going wide receiver. I was debating it, but I saw who I had on the board, and I was like, okay, we need to fix this right now. Rashawn Slater at 11 to the Giants. He's going to be either a left tackle or guard. Depends what you want to do with that tackle spot. I know they have Andrew Thomas and they have Matt Pert, so you could put him at left guard, and then that would really just solidify the entire offensive line because, I mean, you got Will Hernandez at right guard, Thomas at left tackle, Pert at right tackle, and then you just need to have the hole at left guard. And even if you want, you can move him to center because people are even saying that he's going to be a way better center than any people are going to really realize. Who is the Giants center? It is Nick Gates. So yeah, you could play him at either left guard or center, and you'd be upgrading your offensive line overall. And now you'd have 4 steady offensive line starters. Help out Saquon Barkley. Isolate that variable. See if Daniel Jones is the real deal, and if he's not, move on from him next year. Number 12, Philadelphia. They take Devonta Smith. I just think with what they have on the roster right now, with Jalen Reagor being that deep threat guy, the speedy guy, they don't want to add a second one with that with Jalen and Waddle. I would personally just want a good route runner who is, oh my god, he's so good at route running. I'm not as worried about his weight because if you're in the NFL and you have low weight, yeah, you're going to be worried about getting banged around and getting hurt. But as a receiver, if you're not relying on your physical abilities like speed, jumping, muscling players, if you just rely on, if your number one trait is route running, that can take you a long time in this league, even if you have had some injuries. So I think because of what his number one skill is, it's going to help him get past that issue of his weight. And then the Chargers at 13. I didn't really see an offensive tackle I liked here, and I know there's some better ones later in the draft, so I took Patrick Surtain, replaced Casey Hayward, just immediately upgrading that starting cornerback position. They brought in, who did they bring in? His name is missing me. Chris Harris. They brought in Chris Harris, and they'll be an immediate upgrade over Tyvon Campbell. They got Michael Davis. It'll really just make that secondary a lot better. And then they can focus on getting like a D tackle or something like that later in the draft, maybe in the second round. 14, Tennessee is on the board after they trade up with Minnesota. They give Minnesota the 22nd pick, the 53rd pick, and the 216th. Tennessee gets the 14th and 144th. So they move back eight positions, give up a second, and they get a fifth in return for a seventh. And Tennessee picks Jalen Waddle, wide receiver out of Alabama. They lost their number 2 and number 3 receiver with Corey Davis and Raymond. I can't remember what his name is. Their number 3 receiver leaving. So they need to replace them and pair them with A.J. Brown. And A.J. Brown's a more physical, big physical wide receiver. Pair him with a smaller, speedy receiver for Tannehill. Give that deep threat, play action, deep threat ability right there. And then really scare people into moving the safeties back, which they can't really do against Derrick Henry. So you got to put them in a tight pickle there. 15, New England takes Mac Jones. I know they just re-signed Cam, but you got all these weapons, and the point of getting these weapons was to get them the ball. And Cam Newton isn't what he was throwing the ball anymore. Maybe he'll be better in second year in the system, but his mechanics and physical traits were what really failed him last year, not his processing. So I think bringing in someone who can play that point guard to all those weapons you brought in will work better. And even if you want to let him sit for a year, every quarterback can stand from sitting a year and learning the league before getting just thrown into the fire. So I think even though Mac Jones is the most pro-ready, he could stand from learning, and you can do that with this pick. So here's Detroit on the board after trading back with Arizona. They take Elijah Vera Tucker, guard out of USC. I really like this fit. They needed a kind of road grading run blocker. He's amazing in pass protection. He gets your hands on you, and you're not going anywhere. If he gets his punch on you, and he has a pretty fast punch, he's got iron vice grips for hands. There's no way you're going to beat him on the interior. And I love this pick because as the Lions fan, you got to worry about Kenny Clark and people like Khalil Mack can kick inside. Not Bilal Nichols. The guy from the Bears. Oh, I'm losing his name. Eddie Goldman. You have all these great interior pass rushers, interior linemen in the NFC North. that you need to worry about. And Vera Tucker can be going there and just shut them down. He's that amazing. I'm that high on him. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he is the 8th overall player on my board. I think super highly of him. He can come in and be an immediate upgrade to Logan Stenberg or even Jonah Jackson. So I think that'd be a home run hit for the Lions, especially if they move down and collect picks doing that. Vegas gets Tevin Jenkins, the most Gruden grindery player of all time in this draft class. They need a right tackle. He plays right tackle. If not, you play him at right guard. He is like the nastiest player on the field in this entire draft class, and he just screams Raiders. Many other people will mock this pick. This is probably gonna be the pick in real life, so I mean I'm not gonna waste too much time on it. Miami takes Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. I really like this pick because they got rid of Kyle Van Noy because he wasn't really fitting into the system, and they already Shaq Lawson traded for Bernard McKinney, so another linebacker. So you're like, well, why would they drop the linebacker here if they just traded for a linebacker? Because Collins is so diverse. He can rush the passer. He has this body size to literally play the end, but he's also elite in dropping back into coverage, especially the size. He can make these home run plays that you need to get someone like this. He's like the perfect Belichickian linebacker, even if you don't have like a glaringly open position on your roster, like at linebacker, you can bring him in, especially if you're one of these Belichick teams. And on early downs, he plays linebacker. On pass downs, he plays defensive end. Or he's so good in pass coverage, you flex him out of there. You can do some like really cool blitz concepts where he's lined up on the line, he could pull off and have someone blitz in and really try to confuse the line. He is so diverse, it's phenomenal. You can put him in over Sam. So how do you even say that name? Sam Ugo-Voen? I have never heard of him in my life. Assuming he was just drafted by them or was an undrafted free agent, something like that. Let's see. He was. Yeah, so he was an undrafted free agent. I think you definitely can upgrade there with Zaven Collins, and that would be a home run pick for them. I really like that, especially for this Belichick defense. And Brian Flores was the linebackers coach for New England, where they like those kinds of linebackers. So you get the linebackers coach to bring in his kind of linebacker, like the epitome of a Belichick linebacker. It'd be perfect. I just think it works. It hits too many needs and too many fits to not make sense there. Atlanta, moving back with Washington here at 19, gets Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker out of Notre Dame. He is my 7th overall player on my board, and he fell this far. They already have Deion Jones, but they can stand to add just more defense in general. He's great in pass coverage. You get all those picks, so not only do you get an impact player on the way, defenses are going to be nickel for base all from here on. Ron Rivera is one of the biggest implementers of it, and I think he's the epitome of a perfect nickel defender. He's like the modern NFL defender, and you pair him with Deion Jones, you're gonna have 2 lockdown pass coverage linebackers. He's a great scraper from the weak side. Deion Jones can be your middle linebacker, and you can focus on filling the rest of your defense up in this draft and using all those picks you acquired from moving back this draft to focus on getting a quarterback or fixing your offense in future drafts. Next up is Chicago Bears at 20. They get Caleb Farley, which would be insane. I think him going to Chicago. They got rid of Kyle Fuller, cost-cutting measure. That they replaced him with Caleb Farley. They immediately fixed a hole there, and they might have even gotten, I'm not going to say better right away because Kyle Fuller is really good, but potentially better in a few years on the road, especially if he stays healthy. But adding him to that defense, oh my God, it's just insane. Just thinking about it, he could be a top 10 pick, and he falls to Chicago at 20, where they already have that beefed up defense. They're going to win so many games on defense alone. Just pick 6 are going to outscore their entire offense. That's insane to me. I really like that pick. Indy now with Jalen Phillips, edge Miami. I'm not as too concerned about concussions. I think he wouldn't have came back to the game if he was worried about collecting more or being close to retirement again. So he'll come in. He's been my number 1 edge rusher for months. I was first on that train where everyone started coming around to it. It was Kwity Paye. No, Jalen Phillips has been my number 1 edge rusher for months, and now people are starting to see why I believe he's just overall the best edge rusher in this class. Maybe one of the best defenders overall. Next up, Minnesota takes Kwity Paye after moving down with Tennessee. Just replacing Daniel Hunter once he leaves. You have those situational pass rushers who can give you the pass rush. Kwity Paye is not going to be like an elite pass rusher ever in his career, but he's just going to be solid NFL starter immediately, going to shut down the run immediately, give you some flashes of pass rushing excellence. I've come around on his film a little more than I used to. But yeah, just landing him at 22 here fixes an immediate need it would be a need once you trade Daniel Hunter, who requested a trade. 23, the Jets with Seattle's pick, take Gregory Rousseau. That franchise guy pointed out a good thing is that he plays very similar to Eric Armstead and has very similar body type, and Robert Saleh loved Eric Armstead so much that the GM decided to pay him over to Forrest Buckner. And that's saying something. So if he's going to handpick his first edge rusher to come play for him, it's going to be a guy who reminds him of one of his favorite edge rushers in Eric Armstead. So I really like that pick. The Jets needs all over their defense and pass rusher. You always could stand to have an elite pass rusher right away. Pittsburgh at 24, Najee Harris. He's got to get back to that, bruising kind of running style, and it's just very self-explanatory. They lost James Conner. They didn't really put a replacement. Benny Snell's not going to be your lead back going into the season, and he just exemplifies everything that Pittsburgh Steelers football is. He's going to excel in that cold weather temperatures games. It's going to be pretty crazy. Now, only if they can get a quarterback. Jacksonville at 25 with the Rams pick. Trayvon Moehrig fits the system perfectly. Best safety on the board. I'm not that insanely high on him overall, but I think the fit and the need, and just if I'm the Jags GM, I'm like, okay, this guy can immediately make my defense better, which is what we're going to need. Our offense is pretty good right now. We have a good quarterback. We have good pieces on the weapons. We can wait to grab an offensive tackle later in the draft. Let's fix his defense even more than we already have with additions of all those pass rushers. Now this one's going to be a little controversial, and the draft dudes on the Draft Network podcast made this pick because it's one of their guys, and they really are the ones who shone a light on this guy as a prospect for me, and I really fell in love with him as well. 26, Cleveland takes Baron Browning, linebacker. It's not the sexiest pick, but you've addressed your secondary, you addressed your pass rush. Outside of D tackle, which I don't value any of them right here at this pick, linebacker is the biggest need. Browning can cover. He's athletic enough to cover tight ends and fast running backs like Alvin Kamara or Travis Kelce. He can blitz. The only problem with him is that he's probably going to be more of a weak side linebacker. They tried playing him at middle linebacker at Ohio State. Was never looked right. When they moved into weak side, that's when he really excelled. So I think putting Mac, what's his name? Linebacker. Mac something. What was his name? Mac Jones. I keep wanting to say Mac Jones. It's not Mac Collins. It's going to bother me. I really liked him. He was coming out by Alabama. Mac Wilson. And you have Anthony Walker, I guess, but I think Mac Wilson will probably be the starter there in the middle. I just really like him as their weak side linebacker. It'll really help them in the passing game, as well as just adding overall talent to that core. Try to build up your weak point that was last year. Your offense was fine. Your defense really needed to get built up, and you're doing that now with the signings for agency and now this pick. Baltimore takes Creed Humphrey. I don't really value him as a first-round pick here, but if I'm Baltimore, I'm scared if I don't get a center early in this draft because they kind of fall off after this. Between him and Dickerson, and then that's about it. They fall off, and maybe Miners can go up there. That's the biggest need, and it's kind of scary. Edge rushers, we can find edge rushers later in this draft. There's a lot of them. I really think that they need to fix center immediately. Even if it's going to be a bit of a reach in my eyes, I think they need to go and get this. So that's why I pulled the trigger on grabbing Creed Humphrey here. Number 28, New Orleans takes Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out of Minnesota. Michael Thomas is going to be your middle of the field, route runner, slant, Mr. Slant Man. While Bateman can run those deep routes, the double moves, and get opening when he gets the ball in his hands, he has some rack ability. Maybe not his best attribute is rack, that is. But I think he can work on it, especially if he goes there with Sean Payton. And I think they're giving Jameis Winston, with this pick, every chance to succeed there. Mike Thomas is going to be healthy. They bring in this guy to be a stellar number 2, borderline number 1. He doesn't have all the pressure on him, so he can just work to being the best of his game. And I think that's a phenomenal home run hit if they can land him. Green Bay at 29 gets Liam Eichenberg off the tackle at Notre Dame. Highest floor, maybe, outside Rashawn Slater. Or even maybe Christian Darrisaw, but I think he has a little higher floor than Christian Darrisaw. Surprisingly high ceiling, too, with the technique he can still bring to the run game. His pass blocking is pretty polished. So I like him to Green Bay, who's trying to win right now, and they need to bring in a left tackle that compete with the best pass rushers in the NFC, especially with the Bucs having shown that they can kick some subpar tackles' asses, especially against like the Chiefs and the Packers last year when they got hurt at that position. So they need to grab a high floor tackle, and that's what Liam Eichenberg is. Philadelphia trades up here out of the second round. They give Buffalo the 37th and 124th. So they move up 7 spots to get the 30th. I just didn't like where the board fell for the Bills, and I thought they could pick up another pick. They're kind of short in the mid-round, so I like this for them. They come up and get Dylan Raduns. They're going to jump KC for that. Offensive tackle on NDSU. They grabbed their wide receiver earlier. They probably need another corner, but they can probably stand to grab one later in the draft. Needed to grab one of those top tackles before they're all gone, and KC was probably going to snatch up the last really good draftable one in the early second round range. So they jump KC to get that. Raduns probably needs a year or two to really reach his full potential, but Philly needs as much help in the offensive line as they can. They can't keep bringing back 37-year-old Jason Peters. KC now being jumped. I looked at KC's depth chart the other day, and I was shocked to find out who their starting D tackle was, according to our lads. It was someone random, a guy who they had waived the season prior. He was on and off the waiver wire. It is Tim Ward. They had Taco Charlton at the end as well, but you need to fix that. So I have them grabbing Joe Tryon, one of my favorite edge rushers in this draft class. Not immediately polished, but he brings such a big, freaky, athletic profile. As well as some deceptively good moves with a long arm, a dip and rip, a swim, things like that I think he can come in and even become an instant impact player, especially for this team that doesn't have many varying needs outside of offensive tackle, but all the offensive tackles are gone right now. I don't think Samuel Cosme is worth this pick right here because he's more of a developmental guy. So I think grabbing Tryon to come in and really show out and try to pressure other quarterbacks and make mistakes, so that way even if your offense stalls with the lack of offensive tackle depth, things like that, you can rely on your defense to get some good promising stops and sack the quarterback. Just imagine Joe Tryon with Chris Jones and Frank Clark. It's just, it'll be crazy. That'll be a great D-line. And Tampa Bay, being greedy piglets, they are getting, I guess, a kind of Julian Edelman type guy, converted quarterback to wide receiver, and Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. Now they have Scotty Miller to play the slot. He's more of a downfield speed guy. Toney's going to be more of that shifty, middle of the field, route running guy that Brady's going to fall in love with. I think this is just a great pick for them just because it's going to add that dimension to their offense. They don't really have that Brady would really love to have. They have those guys with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans who are down the field or middle of the route kind of guys. They replace Antonio Brown with a guy who can just make people miss and are very shifty with their routes. Kadarius Toney would really, really excel in that offense. If you're liking what you're reading or you disagree with what I'm reading and you want to come tell me that, comment below. But also, I have an exciting announcement. I am working for Macro Sports now. I'm writing, volunteer writing for them, sports stuff. They have a Patreon, but they do have free articles. I have posted 2 articles now by the time this goes up. First one is going to be a free article. It's about a player capsule on a player you'll be seeing in a future pick, which is Pete Werner. You'll be seeing him soon. Second round talent, I believe, linebacker at Ohio State. So if you want to go see what I think about him more in depth, go over to Macro Sports. It's Wix. It is a Wix website, and those are where you're going to find the free articles. Just go to the feed section. But also, if you go to Patreon, you'll be able to find out my one draft perfect match. I'm doing draft matchmaker, and I'm getting one player that fits perfectly with each team. You might have seen some of the picks in this draft. This mock draft are the picks in that matchmaker, but you'll see my in-depth analysis on all those. That one's going to be behind a $5 Patreon paywall. If we get up, I believe it's up to get up to 200 patrons. I start getting paid for this, and I get to make it my job, technically, so that's really the dream. So if you go support us just by reading the articles, getting us some clicks over there, and if you want, slide $5 over my way, or not over my way, over to the website's way. There's also 10 other guys that are writing with me, talk about basketball and football. We are all walks of life, all different kinds of sports coverage, so go check it out. That's Macro Sports on Patreon and macrosports.com. It's going to be a Wix website, the first one you get when you Google it. Hopping into the second round, we're going to go kind of more rapid fire here. Jacksonville at 33 takes Jalen Mayfield, tackle guard out of Michigan. More of a right tackle guy. Really high ceiling. He was facing the best of the best in the Big Ten from right out the gate, and I think that throwing him into the fire like that has really prepped him to come into the NFL and get thrown into the fire right away to be a starter. The Jags need help at both tackle positions, but I think right tackle is more of a need than left tackle right now because they do have Cam Robinson for one more year at least. So grabbing Mayfield just really comes in and fixes that right side, and all you got to do is find a left tackle next season in that draft because you're not expecting to be really good, so you might be in play for another good left tackle prospect. 34, the Jets take Travis Etienne. Just add some weapons. They don't really have a run game. You can throw him back there with Zach Wilson, and that's just money right there. Atlanta at 35, take Javonte Williams, running back out of North Carolina. Arthur Smith's going to establish this power run game like he had with Derrick Henry in Tennessee, and Javonte Williams is going to be that like Kareem Hunt-ish, but a little more power kind of runner, slasher, and that'll go a long way into building that kind of offense he wants, better than the running backs they have on roster right now. So they get their lead cow back to really add to those wide receivers and try to conform more to Arthur Smith's scheme that he ran in Tennessee. At 36, we got Miami with Houston's picking Samuel Cosmi, offensive tackle, Texas. I'm not the biggest fan of Austin Jackson at left tackle and Robert Hunt at right tackle, so if you do this, put Samuel Cosmi at left tackle. He does need some work with his footwork, and so his first year might be a little more rough than some people might be expecting, but I think after that he has, sky's the limit with his potential. Austin Jackson's more of a right tackle kind of player, so moving him there will boost that position as well as moving Robert Hunt into guard, which is more of his natural position, upgrading 3 spots with 1 pick. I think that's great for a second-round pick. And now speaking of the guy I wrote about on Macro Sports, go check it out, Pete Werner, linebacker out of Ohio State, to Buffalo at 37. Real quick, I said this also I'm going to talk more about this in an upcoming video. Or no, I already put it out. The top 10 Bills draft needs, he's on there. He's also going to be on another video in the future that I'm going to be posting in a few days. But he's just great. He'll fit in. He'll take AJ Klein's role and also still be a three down backer because he's great in pass coverage. So he'll be able to play that strong side linebacker position, but unlike most strong side linebackers like AJ Klein, instead of just being a blitzer, which he can still do, he can stay out there and pass cover. So you don't have to worry about running nickel every time you want to defend the pass, and he can cover those bigger tight ends that have given you issues over the years. So I think he's going to be a great addition to this Bills defense and might be able to push AJ Klein out for his starting spot. Cincinnati at 38 takes Terrace Marshall, wide receiver out of LSU. Not my number 1 receiver on the board. I don't think it's even close. I think it's like 3 or 4 off of it. But you get Joe Burrow, his LSU wide receiver, he already has chemistry with. And I know it's not Jamar Chase, but it's a little better. It's not better, but it's like still a pretty good one. He has chemistry with him. He's a 6'4" target, more adept on going deep. You got T. Higgins to work that middle of deep area. Tyler Boyd's your typical slot, and then you put Terrace Marshall out there with who already, like I said, already has the chemistry with Joe Burrow, and you have protected them with Penei Sewell. So I think that's perfect scenario. This is like beautiful, perfect scenario for the Cincinnati Bengals here. 39, we got the Giants moving up with the Carolina Panthers to grab Azeez Ojulari, edge out of Georgia. They do need some more oomph off the edge there, and I think Ojulari's he was falling a little too much, and I thought someone has to come up and grab him because they see him falling, and it has to stop here. So they give up the 42nd overall pick and a 2022 fifth to move up 3 spots from 39, or they give up 42 to go up to 39, and all they gave up is a 2022 fifth to grab Azeez Ojulari. Denver takes Greg Newsome, cornerback out of Northwestern, Chicago boy. Really, really good corner. Probably first round traits, but he gets hurt so much, and he was facing Northwestern. He was playing at Northwestern, where he faced a little bit more subpar talent. When he played like Ohio State, though, he really showed out. Just the injury concerns would make him drop a little bit. And you might be wondering why Denver, of all teams, would take a corner, but like even if you're in the division with the Chiefs and the Chargers, you need to get as many corners as possible. I know you signed Ronald Darby and Kyle Fuller, but like corners, you need to get more and more. And I'm not sold on Ronald Darby. He was an ex-Bill, and he was all right. So I think grabbing even more corners so that way you can just take on these teams who have 1,000 receivers that can kill you in different ways, especially with his injury concerns. You can really keep on adding there. There's no reason to not add corners. At 41, Detroit grabs Tamorian Terry, wide receiver out of Florida State. One of my biggest, if not the biggest, sleeper in this draft class. Left the team after 6 games because he disagreed with COVID protocol by the Florida State coaches because they weren't really following it correctly. The Florida State coaches also kind of held him back. You can tell there was some things like his route running and his catching and using his body and really being comfortable in the position that he wasn't really doing all that well. because he just wasn't getting coached right. And I think that given an actual coaching team that knows what they're doing, like a coaching regime, especially the offensive coordinator from the New Orleans Saints, I think that he'll be able to come in and actually do some damage and become probably the DK Metcalf of this draft. Really tall, long. If you want, go pay $5 at that Patreon at Macro Sports. You can read why I think he's a great fit for a different team, but I think Detroit gets to him first here. Carolina, having moved back with the Giants, take Asante Samuel Jr., pair him up with Dante Jackson, just keep adding to that defense. I know offense probably has a little more need, but I think after grabbing left tackle early in the draft, you just keep adding positions of like high value. So left tackle, cornerback, edge rusher. You got to just keep adding to these positions of high value. San Francisco at 43 takes Diami Brown, wide receiver out of North Carolina. I'm not over the moon about the receivers they have. Like, they have one or two with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, but you can always add more. And the more weapons, the better, especially if you're looking to grab Justin Fields and just trying to build that offense up to be really dynamic and deep ball heavy with Fields' arm. Brown would be a great addition there out of North Carolina. 44, Dallas grabs Ronnie Perkins. They need edge help outside of DeMarcus Lawrence, and even then to help take pressure off DeMarcus Lawrence, who's had a slump this year. They lost Aldon Smith. Ronnie Perkins, surprisingly quick and fast, who can convert that to power really well. He long-armed Tevin Jenkins onto his ass when they played. It was beautiful. So, I mean, he's just a monster. I think he's getting slept on too, but he has some room to grow with run, like playing the run and things like that. But, pass rushing first when you grab an edge. So that's why I haven't fallen in the second round, but still not falling as far as most people think he would. Pick 45 here, Jacksonville has Minnesota's pick. They take Pat Freiermuth. Probably a little fall for him. I'm not as high, but Jags have the Penn State's old tight ends coach slash co-offensive coordinator. So I think the Jags makes the best sense for him. He already knows the coach there, and they have a glaring need at tight end. Like, all their other weapons are pretty decent with DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, and Marvin Jones. So I think bringing in Pat Freiermuth really settle up that tight end position. Me going with the coach he already knows. And this pick is exactly why I made my draft matchmaker article, because this is just I just love this fit for the Jags because of those facts I just said. There's a need, and he already knows the coach there, and he can just come in and be that dynamic guy for Trevor Lawrence to throw to out of the tight end position, which he really never really had at Clemson. Now I have New England here at 46, taking Duane Eskridge, slot wide receiver out of Western Michigan. He's another one of my gigantic sleepers in this draft class. I know he's a bit older, and he's relatively new to the position, but the speed and the ability he has to get open and beat press, even though he's a smaller receiver, is amazing. Play him out the slot. You don't even have to worry about him getting jammed there. Immediate need with Julian Edelman retiring. And you have your guys, your two tight ends, and also your guys that you signed to play the outside with Nelson Aguilar, and I can't remember exactly who, Kendrick Bourne. So I think he'd be fit perfectly as a new slot receiver for Cam Newton or Mac Jones, who I haven't taken here. And at pick 47, I have the Chargers taking Walker Little, left tackle out of Stanford. Really slept on because he had got hurt and injured his ACL in 2019 after being talked up as a top 10 overall draft pick, and then opted out of 2020. So he hasn't played football in relatively, basically 2 years. But when he was playing, oh my God, he was an amazing left tackle. So if you can grab him at 47 while also grabbing Patrick Surtain, big time winners for the Chargers here. They get their guy to protect Justin Herbert, have him 2 years to recover from that injury, which really isn't that bad nowadays with modern medical science. And they get a shutdown corner. Beautiful draft execution for the Chargers in the first 2 rounds here. Next up is Las Vegas at 48. They take Jackson Carman, guard out of Clemson. I know he played left tackle, but they have a need at left guard. They grabbed Tevin Jenkins to play right tackle. They need to fix this offensive line. God damn it. And I really think that Jackson Carman is another guy who screams Gruden Grinder at me. He's just this mean run blocker who struggled. And in pass block, he's pretty decent with his anchor and taking power rushers on. So I think that he'd fit good for this Gruden Grinder thing, which is bulldozer in the run game. Match him up with Richie Incognito, Tevin Jenkins. That'd be pretty nasty. He just struggled with some outside rushers, which is why I have him kicking in the guard when he goes up to the pros, which a lot of people might agree with me on that. Detroit at 49. This is with Arizona's pick. They traded it up to get Kyle Pitts with. They grabbed Nick Bolton, linebacker out of Missouri, another kneecap biter guy who's just aggressive downhill attacker who's going to swallow up that run. They whiffed on the Jared Davis pick, so they need to find a middle linebacker. And Nick Bolton is that kind of like insane, hyper Dan Campbell kind of guy. 50, Miami takes Jason Owe, edge out of Penn State. Now, that might be a little redundant with Zaven Collins, but he's more of that pure edge rusher. Collins is going to be that linebacker kind of guy, so he comes in and can be that developmental guy to take over for Emmanuel Ogbah if you ever want to move on from him. Well, Zaven Collins is your Sam backer. He can take over for where Shaq Lawson left right away. Owe can, or if you want to let him sit for a year, take over where Ogbah was, play Collins there. You can mix and match them. They're very diverse. They're both really good chess pieces on the defense, and I trust Brian Flores put them in places, especially Collins. But Owe can be put in a place where he'll be able to succeed and grow as a player and become hopefully that elite edge rusher that his traits say he's going to be. Production says otherwise. Washington takes Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. A bit of a fall for him here. He's pretty good. He only had 1 year as a starter at Kentucky. So it's like, why did he struggle so hard to start at defense at Kentucky? But when he did start, his tape was good. You can't argue with it. It's just you have those questions why he didn't start right away. Maybe he's a slower developer. But I like what I saw on the tape from him, which is why he's going to Washington. And now Washington, even they get to keep their second-round pick, even though they traded up to get Trey Lance. And you probably would have got, even if they were stayed at 19, Jamin Davis might have been on the board for them there as well, because some people see him really highly. I see him highly, but I just had him tumble a little bit here. Chicago takes Quincy Roche, edge out of Miami. Very technically sound edge rusher. I don't know why more people aren't talking about him. I think it's because he's getting overshadowed by his Miami counterparts. Very technical guy. And you signed, let's see, I think it's Robert Quinn. So you pay Robert Quinn all this money to come over and he gets you 2 sacks last year. Get someone who's like Roche, who can be that technical master of pass rushing. On the opposite side of Khalil Mack, who's just that physical freak who can just bulldoze any tackle. And you get a good balance there and someone who can actually probably produce for you off that edge. As you let Robert Quinn play another season, let him, really get groomed up and learn the system, and you can come in and be that 3-4 outside rushing linebacker that you want Robert Quinn to be when you paid him. Minnesota at 53 with Tennessee's pick takes Leonard Dickerson, center out guard out of Alabama. If you're Minnesota, you missed out on Elijah Vera Tucker. Getting Leonard Dickerson late in the second round because of his injury history, his concerns. I know he was doing cartwheels, but at the same time, he's been hurt a lot during college. It wasn't just that one ACL tear. Also, I'm just not the biggest. I love his game. Not love his game. I like his game, but I'm not in love with his game. So I have him falling here to 53. Minnesota grabs Kwity Paye and Leonard Dickerson. So Cincinnati, Chargers, Minnesota killing this draft. Indy takes Braden Christensen out of BYU. Just finished doing his tape today, actually. He's really good. He's got a little bit of mobility issues, but I think as just like a pass protector, he can grow. He has room to grow, and his run blocker is not really effective. But I think if you're Indy, you just need someone to block for Carson Wentz's blind side, which he didn't get a lot at Philadelphia, to really let him progress and evolve as a quarterback in that system. So I think Christensen can give you that decently middling floor, but he's got some room to grow as a pass protector, which I think Frank Reich and that offensive line coach who helped coach Quentin Nelson up to amazing levels, even though he's already amazing, can help him out with that. Pittsburgh here with Wyatt Davis, guard out of Ohio State. Another injury-prone guard, but with the pick with Najee Harris and you grab Wyatt Davis, you're committing to being that road-paving, kick-your-ass kind of run-style team that the Pittsburgh Steelers have always been known for in that cold weather. So we're really trying to get back to that again with these 2 picks. Seattle fans might be a little pissed because they've waited this whole time, and I got to pick number 56, and I have them trading down. You only have 3 picks in this draft class, so you need to pick up picks. So they get the 61st pick, which is the 3rd round pick, and 162nd pick from the Buffalo Bills. The Bills get the 56th pick back. They take Paulson Adebo, cornerback out of Stanford. They really need to get that second cornerback spot down. I probably would have taken Adebo with their first second-round pick I had earlier, whether they took Pete Werner if Werner wasn't there. Adebo is really, really, really good at understanding zone concepts and attacking like that, which is exactly... The Bills run a lot of deep cover 2, cover 3 zone with their corners, and I think he would thrive in that system, especially because he doesn't have to start right away, and the Bills just need more corners to be able to keep up with like the Chiefs and things like that. I think he works perfectly in the Bills fit. Another guy off of my best Bills fits video from a couple weeks ago. The Rams are the first pick of the whole thing. Get Joseph Asai. They just need to add some edge rushers. I know they re-signed Leonard Floyd, but like more edge rushers to help take pressure off Khalil Mack, and he's just great value for the pick you're getting here at 57. Baltimore at 58 takes Peyton Turner. Really slept on edge rusher out of Houston. He played at 3 different weight levels. He played at like an outside linebacker level a sophomore year, then he played like a D tackle in the 300s level, and now he went like to a middle level this season. I really like his ability to turn strength into moves. He has some good technique. He does have some movement skills. He's been able to chase down like wide receiver screens before they can even get a few yards downfield at like 280. So I think he's very impressive, and he's kind of like that bigger body, like Calais Campbell type edge rusher who has proven he can lose weight and play that stand-up edge rusher position they like. I just think he provides a lot of versatility for a team who likes versatile edge rushers. Cleveland grabs Levi Amuzariki, D-tackle out of Washington. They've addressed everything on defense except for D-tackle, and Amuzariki is just a great athlete at the position. Can really provide some instant impact and pass rush from D-tackle position. Maybe not so much in a run defending spot. I'm even less high on Christian Barmore than I am on Amuzariki. That's why I don't have him going here, which isn't going to happen in real life. But like I said, both these guys don't really defend the run. But I think Amuzariki's athletic ability outweighs or makes him better than Barmore slightly. So I have Cleveland going here, just trying to add more to that defense to really focus on. Because if you have a that great run game, you need to have a great defense to back it up. New Orleans grabs Carlos Basham to replace Trey Henderson. I know they have Marcus Davenport, but he's been a flop to say the least as a pick. So bringing in Carlos Basham, who's a very high floor kind of guy, can come in, be like that staunch, like really hard edge setting run defender, while also providing you with some like decent pass rush. He's got some moves and some strength, but like he's not going to wow you with his athleticism. Seattle moving back down to 61. I'm sorry, there was a later second round pick down to third. Moving back down to 61, where Buffalo's pick was, they grab Ifeatu Melifonwu, cornerback, or Melifonwu, out of Syracuse. Longer, big corner, can run the cover 3 like Seattle loves to do. Perfect player to team comp pick match. Green Bay Packers grab Monty Rice. They're struggling at linebacker. Monty Rice is more of a weak side linebacker, who I believe is really good. Probably one of the best linebackers, if not the best, in pass coverage outside of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in his draft class. Didn't play a lot. I don't know why they only kept him in for sub packages. I think he could be an every down weak side linebacker who is just excellent in pass coverage. So Green Bay getting a steal there. 63, KC grabs Tylan Wallace. No real tackles to grab here. So they're going to have to keep waiting on that. But they have to add wide receiver after losing Sammy Watkins. Kind of a sneaky need. They grab him. Downfield threat, tall. He's like 6'1", downfield. Basically what Sammy Watkins was giving you. Maybe not as good of a route runner, but I think he's going to add another dimension to this offense while Tyreek Hill works like the short intermediate routes. He'll be able to just take the top off of defense. Even though he's not that fast, he'll be that big body target down the field. And then finally, the last pick in the entire draft, pick number 64, Tampa Bay takes Javon Holland, safety out of Oregon. They have basically everything as a team, so you're not really looking to add to upgrade somewhere, but like Javon Holland could be a great nickel defender, great safety if you want to run 3 safeties, or when your safeties gets hurt, or when your corners gets hurt, he can move around and be that dynamic chess piece that you need. Just to cover for injuries and just to keep adding to your defenders of wide receivers, which you can, like I said in this podcast, you constantly need more of them. But yeah, that's the 2-round mock draft of what I would do if I was a GM with these people. Tell me how wrong I am in the comments, or go on our social medias and bully me. Instagram with the Weekly Huddle, Twitter the Weekly Huddle. Also, remember, check out Macro Sports, where I'm writing. It's probably going to be less mock draft based stuff, more analysis things. Some of my stuff's going to be behind the Patreon paywall, so you might have to pay $5 a month. But I mean, hey, you'd be helping out someone who's trying to make this his dream. Pretty nice. So help me make that dollar bill. You know what I'm talking about. I'm so white. But anyway, that'll be it. Thanks for listening, and catch you later.